Alright, what's up? That's good. That was good. That was good. That was good. What's up? Alright, this is Rachel, and this is Behind the Art. So, growing up, I was always really creative. I played piano, I sang, I did those sort of things. When I first went away to school, freshman year at college, I was just bombarded with all these different people who did all these different sort of things. And that's when I started to realize that I think that I wanted to expand my artistry in some sort of way. And I said I wanted to paint, but I didn't know how. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get into it or what. And then for Christmas, my mother got me a paint set. And it really just kind of started from there. It was, for me, fortunately, it was the most organic sort of process that I was a part of. I did it strictly for the joy and nothing else. And then about 4 years ago, I think, was my first art show. One of my friends who was running the art show, he saw my art and he asked me to be a part of the show, and that was kind of that. The rest of it was sort of history. Favorite medium for sure is painting. I use acrylic paints mostly. Acrylics and mixed media. I use a lot of metal leaf and gold leaf in my paintings. I like acrylics because acrylics are really, really versatile. They're easy to use. They're really beginner friendly as well. Artistic influences, I feel like, are more so as a collective, people of color, and more specifically Black people. I love Christina Martinez. She's a really big influence of mine. A lot of the things in which she paints resonates with me and the things that I paint. How she sort of helps to bridge that gap between Black and Hispanic women because of her upbringing. I tend to bring a lot of my culture into my paintings as well. Being African American, but also having a grandmother who's from Central America and having Chinese blood, I also try to bring those things into my art as well. So I really like the fact that Christina Martinez is able to do that, and it helps resonate with me in my art as well. Basquiat is a big influence of mine, per se, because of the things that he stood for in his paintings and in his work in general. And Tiffany Begginson as well. It's my older sister. She's a really big influence of mine as well. My father's side of the family is from Baltimore City. I was born in Baltimore, and then I moved to Carroll County when I was younger. In Carroll County, it's totally homogenous. I was one, I think, 4 Black girls in school. So it was just really us, by ourselves. I think that really helps to influence my art because I have an innate need to represent us as Black people and us as Black women, like I was saying earlier, in these sort of spaces where we're not really acknowledged too much. Just like any other, I would say, demographic, we deserve to be in some sort of forefront. And for art, for Black people, I think is so integral and so spiritual for us as people of color, because in our history, us and indigenous people have used art for all of these different sort of things, to express ourselves. We use it as a form of praise, as a form of protection. We use it for all of these sort of things, and those are things that my parents, really instilled in me and my little brother and the rest of my siblings, being in a space where we weren't learning about it. You know what I mean? So we sort of had to learn it for ourselves. So I took that sort of narrative and I just extended it into my artwork. In technical terms, I would say that my art style is definitely sort of a bridge between expressionist art and the sacred art because of the sort of motifs that I use. But I think that I'm more so focused on authentic expression and really whatever comes to my art. As of right now, my art is really centered around the experience of Black women and women of color, and the sort of inner divinity that we have, but it's not really the forefront of any sort of praise as far as society goes. If you look a lot in museums and sort of sacred art and things like that, you'll see the motifs and the characters, to be pale skinned and to be European and to be white. But I feel like those are spaces in which Black women also deserve a space in. So that's normally what I paint the most of. One of the first things that I think sparked my interest in tattooing was the need for representation, tattooing in communities of color. I think, due to sort of things and cultural erasure such as colonization and different forms of globalization, this indigenous practice that was used to protect people and use as a form of prayer, like I said earlier, was lost. And it became a space that was totally dominated by people who don't look like us, but it is a practice that was created by us. So I think that the first sort of motivation behind the tattooing was to bring that intention back to the tattooing and back to these spaces for people of color, so that we can have a safe space to express ourselves in a way that the dominant culture doesn't abide by. So man, that's a good question, JJ. I literally have gone through this question so many times in my head, because I think that success nowadays is defined by a lot of external things, money, status, things like that. To define success as an artist, I feel like is to be your most authentic self. I don't think that the priority of success is to be rich or to be famous, because what good are those things if you're not being authentic? You know what I mean? Because I use art as a form of healing, then all that healing is gonna be messy. It's not gonna look its best. It might not sell. It might not resonate with people in a certain way. But as long as it's authentic for myself, and as long as it does resonate with the people that it's meant to resonate with, then it's successful. First and foremost, as an artist, I use art as an avenue to heal myself and to heal others. I think that's really the forefront of the art in which I do. Art for me is really just about its authentic expression. Art has been the single most healing thing in my life, I could say, as of right now. As a form of expression, using it as a form of a spiritual practice, using it as a form to explore the deeper parts of myself that maybe I have difficulty with expressing in sort of other spaces. I use art for everything. I use art as a form of love, as a form of prayer, as a form of connection. I really use art for every single thing. I would define myself as a student. The good thing about art, I feel like, is that there's never really a ceiling that you can hit with it. There's always more things that you can learn, and especially when you're doing art, for a specific intention. It's something that throughout your journey, you're never really going to reach the top. You can reach the top as far as like money goes, maybe, or accolades and things like that. But when it comes to the matters behind why creators actually create, it's an everlasting journey. And so I've really kept the mindset of being a student and not letting my head get too big, not assuming I'm ever really too good for a specific lesson, and keeping myself open to the possibility of learning as much as I can. I want Black people to know that it is okay to express ourselves in the way that we choose to express ourselves. I feel like all too often Black people in some sort of way are censored, we're put into boxes, we're defined, and just watered down in some sort of way. And it's almost ironic, because when it comes to art, it's the people who push the envelope the most, and the people who, are the most unforgiving are normally the most successful. But like I said, I feel like those spaces for Black people are not as respected as they should. So if that's anything that anybody can take away from the sort of art that I make, is that art has permission to be expressed. Me. I should say that. No, I shouldn't. I was just gonna say, this is my behind the artist feature with Jada.
me out, yo.